Jim Ratcliffe wants Manchester United to create the Wembley of the North, with ambitious plans for a spectacular new Old Trafford to rival Wembley's 90,000 capacity. But what are they? Let's run through them, because this is a really exciting conversation for United fans. The future of Old Trafford is one of the most important things that Jim Ratcliffe has to get right. It's going to be a long-term project. What's it going to be? Is it going to be that rebuild? Is it going to be a renovation? Is it going to be a brand new stadium? James Ducker from The Telegraph has released an article today which speaks about Ratcliffe's plans for a Wembley of the North to rival that 90,000 capacity at Wembley. Old Trafford was once the best stadium in England. It's not anymore. I'm going to run through James Ducker's article. I'm going to run through the key points that's raised from it about what Ratcliffe wants to do, conversations with the Mayor of Manchester, maybe plans to actually finance. There's a lot of detail here. Give you 10 minutes of your time. You can let me know what you think about it in the comments and comment on this. What do you want to see? A renovated Old Trafford? A brand new stadium? Or a rebuild? Let me know in the comments. And now let's run through this article. As I said, we've been waiting for information. And of course, we will find out more information from Ratcliffe himself once he's fully ratified. But let's run through this. Jim Ratcliffe's bold plan for Old Trafford to become Wembley of the North. You know what's really sad about that to start with? We had the best stadium in England for a long time, and that's not the case anymore. And now we've got to look to Wembley for ambition. Frustrated unto itself. Anyway, Jim Ratcliffe wants Manchester United to create the Wembley of the North under ambitious plans for a spectacular new Old Trafford. He wants United to have a world-class venue to rival Wembley, and could yet seek to lobby the UK government for funds amid Westminster's levelling up pledge. That's an interesting point there. And he's also been speaking to the Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, and I'll pull that interview up soon because you might have missed that last week. We feel there's a strong argument for the country having a top-class major venue in the North, a Wembley of the North. He feels the club needs an absolute state-of-the-art, knock-it-out-the-park, wow stadium. And no United fan would disagree with that. Old Trafford has so much history that we want to, in a dream world, we all want the redevelopment of Old Trafford to be what happened at the Bernabeu, to be what's happening right now at the Nou Camp, for the foundations to be kept and for it to be rebuilt from the inside. But how do you do that without a stadium to move to? Problems, problems, problems. Ratcliffe's one, well, we don't need any information on that. It is understood that Ratcliffe is broadly opposed to the idea of United having to relocate, but believes supporters would be amenable to the idea of a world-leading new stadium on land immediately surrounding Old Trafford. The spiritual home is important, sources said. We think the fans would be quite happy to accept a brand new stadium if we stay where we are. Now, if you don't know, Manchester United own a lot of land around Old Trafford. I actually want to do a deeper dive into this when I kind of speak to those who understand the planning and the blueprints and what Manchester United actually own in terms of physical land. And I'm going to do a video on that. But according to The Telegraph, this is the land that Manchester United own. Old Trafford is there, and you can see how much of the surrounding area we do own. So in theory, and I'm going to run through this in a sec, Man United could build a new stadium in the adjacent land here. Insiders have raised concerns about the prospect of getting into a situation where the club is throwing good money after bad if they attempt to expand the South Stand and redevelop other areas. Ultimately, you've still got a 1910 building. And this is a bit of a problem. And this is kind of something I've reiterated a lot of times when I've spoken about Old Trafford and the idea of renovating it. Is it big enough? 90,000, what, you're going to get another 16,000 capacity inside that Old Trafford? Written there, 25% of the space inside Old Trafford currently lies empty or wasted. What do they mean, empty or wasted? Not talking about concourses, are they? Inside Old Trafford. I'm curious to know what they mean about that, unless they mean the surrounding area, like car parks and stuff like that. Don't think they do. Insiders, of course, as I said, have raised concerns about redeveloping it. And this is something that Populous, I believe, are the name of the architect firm who were asked to give advice on what to do with Old Trafford. And of course, they're going to say demolish it. I mean, actually, if you think about that, they obviously want the big job. But this is something that's kind of being reiterated more than once now. The building is reaching its near its end of natural life. The cabling, the electricity supplies, everything. I mean, just getting Wi-Fi in Old Trafford seemed like a revelation, although it's been that good. And of course, one thing to do, as I said, would be to demolish it. On theory, if you look there, Old Trafford, the land next to it, and we go back here and we see that Manchester United own this land around it. Could they, in theory, do that? They absolutely could. If Manchester United were to do that, and as it's written there, it would be the most radical plan. Hypothetically here, completely, of course, you could build Old Trafford into something where the academy teams play and the women's team could play, and build a brand new stadium next to it and have them both working in unison. I mean, logically, you could technically do that. And then Manchester United could still play at Old Trafford whilst the new stadium is being built. That's a succession plan. Whether that would work in reality, I don't quite know. And financially, huge questions to ask about every single different potential plan here. It is estimated that expanding the current stadium could cost at least 800 mil and potentially more, while a new ground could be in the region of 1.5 to 2 bill. Ratcliffe and Ineos chiefs have already met with Andy Burnham, and this is what Andy Burnham, the mayor of Manchester, said when he was asked about Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos and what Manchester are going to do when it comes to the redevelopment of Old Trafford.
We are absolutely standing behind the club in saying whatever it is that they want, we will facilitate, and we will be there to make sure that the club is set up for the future. I think there's exciting potential here, Mike, and I am talking to the club. I may well be seeing them next week as well. So Jim has really brought a lot of energy to the situation. Dave Brailsford, brilliant person, the kind of architect of the success of British cycling over the last couple of decades and the velodrome in Manchester. We're really backing the club, but I just want to stress it's not that we're trying to steer them anywhere. We're just saying whatever you decide, is it refurbishing Old Trafford, is it building a new ground, we will stand behind the club and make sure the plan works.
So that's the mayor of Manchester giving his sort of thoughts and opinions on the idea of a new Old Trafford and what Manchester will do as a council to help them. Now, funding this stadium is going to be such a big question. And honestly, my prediction here is I think there's going to be more loans. I think there's going to be more debt. Now, of course, that debt, United fans do not want on the club. If that debt is needed to build the stadium, that has to go on Ineos's books. That's a whole different question. But there might be some funding that could come from Manchester, that could come from the UK government, because, of course, a brand new Old Trafford creates economic opportunities for the local area and overall for levelling up, which is part of the government's plans. But even with financial assistance, United would have to drum up huge sums of money. And another potential option is, of course, to renovate. Now, the big question has always been about renovating the South Stand. But the railways got in the way. Now, it's written up there, and an option has been made possible with new technology that could mean that Manchester United could expand over there. You can see where the expansion would be, and then build out, and, well, that could add a serious amount of capacity to Old Trafford. But is that financially feasible? I mean, it would be financially feasible, of course, but what is this new technology? Would it actually work? These are all the plans that have been drawn up by Populous. But Jim Ratcliffe has an intention there to build a Wembley of the North. Let's see what else, if there's any other information down here. Talking about Ineos building a new chemical plant in Antwerp for 5 billion. My God. But yeah. That's what it says down. Actually, a little bit on debt down here. United would have to service debt on a new or redeveloped stadium, but sources said a project that ultimately contributed to the future growth of the club should be viewed through a very different lens to the Glazers' leverage buyout. It shouldn't be a burden on the club because a new stadium should be paying for itself effectively. If you've got a new 90,000 stadium, you've got 20,000 new people paying for that. Financing options would have to be explored, but one suggestion was the creation of a separate stadium development company that could see the club effectively paying rental to use the stadium over an agreed period as such time it became their own. That's curious. All of these are going to be hypothetical options there. That one there saying that they might set up a separate company Old Trafford goes underneath that. Manchester United rent it off Old Trafford until they can afford to buy Old Trafford, until they eventually own it. I don't. Truth be told, right? There's no way that Jim Ratcliffe or Ineos are just going to whip out a 1.5 bill check and go. Billionaires don't do that. Billionaires use financing because they can make more money out of it. The issue is if Manchester United have to pay any sort of interest or service any sort of debt to make that happen. That is what United fans will not want to see. But the overall concept here, right, of making Manchester United Stadium state of the art, biggest in the north, biggest in the country, best in the country, is absolutely what it should be and what it isn't. What it was and what Ratcliffe wants it to become. What do you think is going to happen here? This is going to be the topic around Ratcliffe that takes the longest. This is the longest roadmap. Improving transfers, a new manager, a new training ground even. They're kind of short to medium term. Old Trafford is the huge question mark that's long term. Quite a few options there that we've not really spoken about before there. The financing of it is going to be the biggest question. No, it's not going to be the biggest question. The biggest question is brand new stadium or renovate. Past that point, how do you pay for it? They're the big questions. I want you to let me know what your predictions are in the comments below. One of my predictions is, I personally think United will build a stadium on adjacent land somewhere. And I would imagine that there will be some sort of funding from the government, partly. But there's going to be a big financing loan taken out by Ineos. And how they structure and organize that is going to be crucial for maintaining the support of United fans. And that's going to be a conversation further down the line. Just my predictions. You can let me know what you think in the comments. But this is really a massively exciting thing. We want Man United to be the best in the country again. Sporting excellence. Well, you need stadium excellence too. You need facilities excellence. And we need both of them. With a new training ground and an upgraded or a new Old Trafford.